Last week, one of my clients said that her daughter ruined her hair by using a blow dry brush. And I get it. They make your life so much easier and they're really addicting. But if you use them the wrong way, you're gonna get yourself into a ton of trouble. So let's go over how to use one of these without totally ruining your hair. Rule number one.
And the only rule.
The first rule in the book will be when you use this. You can't just use it whenever you want. Let's say it's a lazy Sunday morning, you're sitting around drinking a cup of coffee, your hair's a mess, and then all of a sudden you remember that you're supposed to look cute for your brunch in an hour so you can get mimosas with all your friends. Your gut instinct is, oh my gosh, I gotta run to my bathroom mirror and start using this guy to get ready in time. But whatever you do, please do not do that. You're gonna ruin your hair. You probably already know somebody who damaged their hair like that, and maybe you're even meeting them at brunch. But those things will only ever happen if you use him under the wrong conditions. And I just wanna slow things down here for a second because this is super, super important. These are called blow dryer brushes. Emphasis is on blow dryer. Dryers are for drying your hair. If your hair is already dry and you use one of these, that's like putting bread that's already toasted in the toaster and then being shocked like, oh my gosh, why is this toast so burned today? It's burned because you're supposed to put bread in a toaster, not toast. If you try to use this on dry hair, you're gonna burn it down to the root. That's really bad. Let's do 5 seconds of science to understand why it's so bad for your hair. And then we got a lot of other stuff to get to. Science fact number one. Water evaporating actually has a cooling effect. That's why we sweat when we get hot. And believe it or not, refrigerators, air conditioners, freezers, all that stuff relies on evaporation for getting cold. Water is also really, really good at absorbing heat. It provides like this buffer so that the water is absorbing the heat instead of your hair. And then the water evaporates, which cools everything down. So if you don't have any water in your hair, there's no evaporation. Heat builds up really quickly and you're like, wow, these blow dryers really destroyed my hair. But no, these are only dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, and in a second you're gonna know exactly what you're doing. Well, that's stupid. Why don't they put a warning on the box? They kind of do have a warning label, but it's not in the box. It's buried on like the 20th page of the instructions after you go through all the other languages. But right after that, they say that you can technically use it on dry hair, and the only real warning is about electrocution. So yeah, huge mistake, and it's the first rule in a hypothetical book for a reason. Don't do this. All right, so that's the science lesson of the day. Cool, Chris. But no, this is not like Mr. Scott lied to my face in high school when he said, Chris, one of these days, algebra is gonna save your life. Such a liar. But anyway, you're going to use what I just taught you the very next time you use a blow dryer brush to get even better results, because one of the keys of getting great results with these is knowing when the section is done. So as you pass through each section over and over, the hair is going to start to get dry. And when that happens, there's no more water to protect it, which means that you need to stop. Because remember, we don't toast and we don't blow dry hair. We're smarter than that. Here's what we do instead. We're going to stop as soon as the hair gets dry, which is actually kind of tricky to tell, and a lot of people have trouble with this. So here's a trick to figure it out. There's a few different ways. One is you can just drop the section, let it cool off, and then come back and feel it. And if it feels cool or wet, you're not done. You need to do a couple more passes. Or if it still feels dry, you're good to go. Move on to the next section. If you keep going after it's dry, damage. And I hear you saying, but Chris, what if I'm not a pro and I'm not really able to tell? What can I do? I would say, you're in luck, because there's a much better way of doing this that's way easier and gets you better results. I like to call this the Goldilocks Method, and it goes like this. As you're doing your hair with your blow dryer brush, you're gonna have one hand on the actual brush, and then your other hand is going to be free to pick up and grab the hair and put it back on the brush. Now your off hand, the one that grabs the hair, is going to be the hand that tells you when the hair is done. Every time it grabs a section, it puts it on the brush, you'll feel it getting drier and drier. And let's just zoom out for a second here. It'll be much faster if I show you the big picture first. If you dry your hair too many times, heat builds up, you get damage. But on the other hand, if you don't dry your hair enough, it'll still be wet, which ruins everything. In 30 minutes, it's gonna go back to wavy or whatever shape that normally air dries in, and basically you did all this work for nothing. It's not what you want. So the Goldilocks zone is here in the middle, and I don't want you to stress and be like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna get it right in that little spot? It's actually a pretty big area. Trust me, you don't have to be super skilled to do this. If Goldilocks can find a bunch of bears with a perfect porridge and a perfect bed, you can get this down. So every time you grab your hair with your offhand, you're gonna feel the temperature of your hair. And you'll notice that as the hair gets drier, it starts to get warmer. And warm is good. That is the Goldilocks zone. That's where you wanna be. But if it gets really, really hot, that is your danger zone. That is where all the damage is going to happen. And speaking of danger zone, am I really the only person who was upset they didn't use that song in the new Top Gun? Anyway, hot hair is bad, you know that now. But hair that hasn't gotten all the way warm yet is also bad, and I call that the waste of time zone. There's absolutely no point almost getting your hair dry. You either get it dry or you don't. Ideally, you want to be right in the middle of the Goldilocks zone, but in reality, anywhere around the middle is totally fine. You just want to make sure it's not still cool or too hot. And there's one thing that my clients tell me makes this really, really hard, and that is when one part of a section is wet and another part of that same section is dry. What do? You dry your hair evenly. What happens here is that some parts of your hair got hit by the blow dryer brush more than others. That's why it dried unevenly. And that's really, really bad, because if you keep going to get the hair that's wet dry, you're gonna end up putting too much heat on the part of the section that's already dry and damaging it. But at the same time, if you stop early, the wet hair will look really, really bad. So here's what you wanna do to fix this. Number one, use right-sized sections. And when I say that, I mean all of them. No more of this guessing, like maybe I'll take a big section, maybe I'll take a small section. They all need to be the same. I see you out there, you know what I mean. You wanna have about this much hair on your brush, and they should be long rectangles like this that are spread out. That way they go easily on the brush. If you do these big, thick, square type sections, they're gonna go on the brush and you're never gonna be able to get the middle dry. They're too thick. And number two, you need to be blow drying both sides of your hair. So you're gonna take your dryer and do some passes with the hair on top of it, and then you're gonna do others with the hair on the bottom of it. Personally, I always like to start with the hair on top, and then I'll move on to putting it underneath later, because if you do that, it's easier to get the brush through, it doesn't tangle as much, and it comes out better. And then you always want to put the hair straight on the brush. None of this like torn angle or anything like that. If you do that, it's not going to dry evenly, it's going to look weird, and it just makes it so much harder. Now, the single smartest thing you can do, and I can't believe it took me this long to get here because it will take your blow dry to the next level, is use a blow dry cream. If you aren't using a blow dry cream after watching this video, you are choosing to live a subpar life. There's no other way I can put it. Your hair will come out so much better, it's not even close. It's gonna be way softer, your style is gonna last way longer, and if you want all those good things, they're right here, it's easy. And on top of that, any good blow dry cream will automatically have heat protection built in. So that way you don't need to go get a whole separate heat protection product. And remember that whole Goldilocks zone thing that we were talking about? This makes landing in that zone so much easier because you have heat protection. You don't have to worry nearly as much. Here's how you use it. Believe it or not, you only need about a pea-sized amount of this. People get really, really tempted to pile it on and get this huge, big glob, but shoulder length hair only needs a pea-sized amount. If you have longer hair, or if you have really thick hair, feel free to use more, but your baseline for shoulder length hair, pea-sized amount. Now, the way that you're going to apply this is not all over your head. So what you're gonna do is take that pea-sized amount, put it in the palm of your hand, and then rub it together. You're gonna stay away from the scalp or anything up here and slowly work it into your ends into your mids. That's what you're gonna do at first. Then you're gonna slowly work your way up, and then you should only have a tiny bit left on your hands, and that's when you wanna run it over the top of your hair. And if you have any little guys that misbehave around your ears and hairline, make sure to get them too with just your fingers. The only thing is you need to remember that your blow dry cream needs to match your hair type. Don't just copy what I'm using up here. If you want to know which one I would use on your hair if you came into my salon, check out my recommended product list below. It even has a quiz to help you find your hair type. All right, and quick advanced class for the long-time watchers. If you like volume, this is where you're going to use one of my personally favorite products, which is a root lifter for volume. What you want to do is spread your hair apart so the root lifter actually gets on your roots. It needs to be against your scalp, so make a bunch of mini parts, spray it in there, another part, spray it in there. That's how you're gonna get your volume. Volume comes from the roots. And again, please do not forget hair commandment number 1, less is more when it comes to products. If you load up your hair, it's gonna feel dirty, which will mean that you need to wash your hair soon, and then you won't be able to do the next step, which is wait 3 days before styling again. I don't care how good your heat protection is or how good you are at playing Goldilocks. If you're using a blow dryer brush every day, it's going to ruin your hair. And honestly, who wants to spend all that time washing and styling every day? It's a complete waste of time. Let's do this instead. Wait 3 days before you use this guy again. And now you're like, but Chris, what about the days in between? What am I gonna do? There are no days in between. You're gonna wear the style you did on day 1 for the next 3 days, and it's going to look amazing because you did everything right that we told you to do up until here. And if you're still like, Chris, I can't go 3 days without washing, there's no way. Yes, you can. I've been doing this for a long time. You may need to watch my hair washing videos to get this all the way down. But basically, you need to use a grown-up shampoo. None of this Dove or Pantene or any of those watered down plastic shampoos that don't even get your hair clean. And then you need to get your washing technique down too. We don't have time for all of that, but if you want the full video, it's right up here. So your full schedule is gonna look something like this, and I'll do days of the week just to make this easier to follow along. Monday is going to be the day you wash and style your hair. On Tuesday, you're gonna wash, nope, just kidding, that was a trick. There's no washing on Tuesday. You just washed it, we're gonna wait 3 days. You got your hair fully clean and used the proper products and the right technique with your blow dry brush, so everything should still be looking really good. And then Wednesday, you're gonna sit on your couch and watch the Vanderpump reunion because that affair I heard was totally crazy. And then maybe you'll use a little bit of dry shampoo to extend your style for 1 more day. And then finally, Thursday is when you'll wash and style your hair again. That's what the schedule looks like. I really love this routine because anyone can bring their hair to life. It's so easy, it takes so little time because the style lasts for days. And I want to point out that a lot of people can go longer than 3 days. If you can go a week, absolutely, go a week. 3 days is just the minimum. If you do all the things that we talked about, you don't need to worry at all about damaging your hair with a blow dry brush. All right, that's all we got today. I appreciate you hanging out. If you're looking for any products, I highly recommend you check my recommended product list. It even has a hair type quiz to get you started on your hair journey. Have a good one, guys. Take care.